Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice. Today's show features Dr. Tuan Pham. Tuan is a real-life practicing general dentist and the creator of Dental Maverick, a training series designed to teach you to become the leader, communicator, and manager that your dental practice needs to succeed. Dr. Tuan maintains a general private practice in Austin, Texas, where he practices 4 days a week, seeing an average of 4 doctor patients a day, and has an office production of $1.2 million a year. Learn how you can become a dental maverick at www.dentalmaverick.com. Tuan's course, Dental Maverick, is an online 48-week video series designed to improve your communication, define your vision, transform you into a leader and manager, and ultimately lead you to your personal definition of success. Dr. Tuan has had research published on the cover of Compendium, has a provisional patent on a forthcoming dental device, is the head of the dental products division of the School of Invention, which aids in bringing your dental inventions to patent stage and beyond. He's the co-founder of Monsterpreneur, which is a group of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, and business owners with the mission of relax, reset, refocus. He's also the leader of some local mastermind groups. In his free time, he walks his dog, goes fly fishing, and drinks beer while watching SEC football. So here's a taste of what we're going to learn about in today's episode. We're going to learn why most dentists excel with procedures but suffer with business management and leadership. We're going to learn about the commitment issue that most dentists face. We're going to learn about what the average dentist wishes their practice would look like. We're going to learn about how employee issues can boil over and cause catastrophic damage to your practice. We're going to talk about why you need to take action and voice your issues. We're going to learn how to spend less than 5% of your time on management within your business. Real important here, we're going to learn that there's no magic bullet that's going to have a huge impact on your practice. We're going to talk about why it's the business owner's fault in the beginning when there are breakdowns in operating procedures and communications. We're going to learn about the pros of having errors in your practice, which is a really interesting perspective. We're going to learn the most important thing to understand in dentistry from Dr. Tuan's perspective. We're going to learn why patients want to be told what to do versus being asked what to do. We're going to learn what to do if you don't feel like you're a great leader in your practice. We're also going to learn why you are the biggest limitation or bottleneck in your practice. We're going to learn about what happens when you don't have a vision for your business and career. We're going to learn about the biggest problem that dental business owners come across when implementing systems within their team. We're going to answer the questions of, should you hire general staff based on personality or on technical skills? We're going to learn a little bit about the differences between Walmart and Target and how that plays a big role in your patient's experience. We're going to learn about likability in your dental practice and how that helps your patients choose you over another practice. We're going to learn the 2 things your patients will always remember about their experience at your practice. And then we're going to learn a little bit about how Dr. Tuan hires employees. We're going to learn about how to manage a team, the financial benefits that come along with knowing how your patients think. We're going to learn what Dr. Tuan would do differently if he were to start his practice all over today from scratch. We're also going to learn about how Dr. Tuan defines pressures in his life and how he overcomes it. And finally, how to mold your mindset through successful and unsuccessful dental practice owners. And so for a special bonus for today's episode, Dr. Tuan has created a special video where he does a step-by-step walkthrough of how to increase your treatment plan acceptance for tough procedures. That video alone could be worth thousands of dollars to the doctors out there. So be sure to tune in all the way to the end to find out how you can get that for free. Now, to today's guest interview with Dr. Tuan Pham. Hello, ambitious dentists. This is Jonathan Van Horn, CPA, ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. Today, I'm going to be your host, and in these interviews, we attempt to bring you as much information as we can about the process of going from not being a practice owner to being a practice owner. And we do this in a couple of different ways. One, we'll have consultants on that talk about some of the processes that they use to help practice owners come to a more successful business ownership level. And two, we'll have dental practice owners that have been there, done that. They've been through the fire. They know what happens whenever they started their practice. They have the same fears and anxieties that a lot of people have when they started business. Today, we're lucky enough to have somebody that has both of these hats that they wear. We have with us Dr. Tuan Pham of the Dental Maverick course. He's got a lot of accolades. He's pretty infamous on Dental Town, spends a lot of time there giving, in my mind, a lot of lighthearted responses in areas where people need to be more lighthearted. His positivity and energy is, it shines through whenever he speaks on the forums, whenever you talk to the guy. He's just full of positive energy, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to have him on. Today, we're going to talk about his Dental Maverick course. We, at some point, will probably have him on to talk about his journey from being not being a practice owner to being a practice owner, and some of the trials and tribulations that he went through in that process. But today we're going to talk to him about Dental Maverick and being a better leader in dental practices. So if you're out there and you haven't considered the fact that you're going to have to be leading people, this is going to be the interview for you, because the value brought to being a great leader is exponentially higher than any type of academic research you could do, in my mind. The ability to lead people and have them be on board with the things you're doing within your business is so invaluable that I doubt we're going to be able to cover everything in the 30 to 45 minutes that we're going to be here. But listen in. I'm sure we're going to have some great tips for you. So, Dr. Tuan, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for the invitation. I'm excited about this. So where do you want to start?
Absolutely. So, the thing that we should probably start with is, give us an idea of what the start of Dental Maverick was. How did it come about?
So I've always wanted to be an educator. Like ever since I became a dentist, I always thought it'd be fun to teach things, but I didn't think it would be fun to really teach in a dental school academic institution, because there's so many rules, there's so many politics. So I live in Austin. I run this group called Monsterpreneurs. It's for business owners, C-level executives, entrepreneurs that want to excel, and our motto is relax, reset, refocus. So we do fun things and we try to motivate ourselves. So I was a part of this group. I was just hanging out one day and I was telling my buddies in the group, and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a teacher. I have some really good ideas that I've taught other dentists locally that I've known to help build their practices. And then one guy was like, you know what? I know you don't work Fridays. All you do on Friday is sit there and drink beer. You should do it. And I was like, that's right. I do not have a valid answer to you as of why I'm not. I literally told him that. I was like, I'm going to do this starting next week. So I always tell people, many people have great ideas, and this is one of the first things. Like, many dentists, like for example, you can read Dental Town, you can meet many dentists, they'll say, I wish that I could just go to work and I can just do my work and go home. Because a lot of dentists don't want to lead and manage their staff. It's out of their comfort zone, basically. And one of the main reasons I think it's out of their comfort zone is, like you were saying, many dentists want to learn clinical skills. They want to learn a procedure to do because they can follow step-by-step steps. But when it comes to things like leadership and management or communication, it's out of their comfort zone. It's things that we, as dentists, and there's a very typical type of dentist, we're very technical, we're very detail-oriented. We can follow procedures very well. I'm like most dentists, we can probably look at something. I can sell something that's 1/10 or 1.25 millimeters off. We can just feel and tell it. We're very technical. So we have that under our control. But when it comes to other skills like business management and leadership, it's out of our norm and out of our range, so we feel it's out of our comfort zone. So I lost my train of thought of what I was going to say, but
we were talking about how the typical dentist thinks and the creation of
okay. Yeah. So typical dentist thinks like that, and so what they do is they don't ever. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But you were asking me about how I built this course. So, anyways, hold that thought for a second. But um, the sorry, I'm usually not like this, but
It is Friday morning, the day before the 4th of July for anyone listening. So I'm sure, Dr. Pham, you've got a lot of
I'm a beer.
beer drinking to be doing today. So
But anyway, so I'm gonna come back to that in just a second. But about my course, so I got motivated by these guys. Oh, I know what I was saying. So a lot of dentists. Okay, so you're asking about this course and how I built it. So what I was really getting to is a lot of people. We have very good ideas, but we never act on it. Okay, so a lot of dentists, they always say, for example, I wish I could run my office better. I wish I could just come to work and do these things, but then they never do anything about it. It's all talk. So one of the first steps in anything is just making the commitment and saying you're going to take that step and learn about it. So in my course, these guys told me, I just sit around and I drink beer all day on Fridays, which I did. It was my day off. And so some guy brought up a very good point, and I did not have a valid reason to answer him why I didn't do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So one of the most important things is, in my opinion, is that if someone, a dentist, let's say, for example, has a problem, has an issue that they want to resolve, a lot of dentists, it's fine. We like to complain about it. We like to discuss it, and we like to feel sympathy from other people. But one of the first steps is just acknowledging it and say, hey, I'm going to do something about it. And if you take that first step, that's the first step in solving everything. Like we were talking before we actually started this conversation and recording this, one of the things that we're saying is like a lot of dentists don't talk about mindset. We don't talk about, the mindset of things in regards to business. And that's very important. And everything in dentistry, or everything when it comes to a potential issue in our practice, is a mindset. So in my course, the Dental Maverick course, one of the first things we start with is reframing of your mind, meaning we have to change our mindset. So, for example, you read the average dentist and they say, I wish I could just come to work, and I wish that I can just go to work, do my work, and not have to deal with my staff or anything with the daily hassles of it. Well, in my viewpoint, well, first of all, that's not a problem. It may be something you don't like, but you got to reframe your mind. Anytime we have a problem or an issue, we got to say, you know what? Do I want to live with this problem or issue for the rest of my life? Or is this the opportunity for me to find the solution to this whatever problem it is, so that I may resolve it for the rest of my life, enjoy my work more, and get more control of my office? So everything.
Give me a specific example of something that maybe a someone that's in your course, or something you yourself went through, where that exact thing, where there was a problem that they found out, and a way that you would have framed that as an opportunity. Okay. So do you have anything off the top of your head?
Well, it could be anything. Okay, for example, one of the most common things, myself, is that let's say we have a dental assistant, right? And our dental assistant, sets up our room, but she doesn't set it up. He or she doesn't set it up like we want to. So what does the average dentist do? The average dentist might complain about it to himself. Average dentist might just hold it in, never talk about it, just get pissy each time and think in his head, oh, stupid assistant, she didn't put this instrument out. And then he just stews on it. And then what happens? One day, he doesn't voice it. It happens enough times, and by this time, the assistant doesn't realize it. She thinks she's setting up perfectly because no one's ever said anything to her. And one day, he blows up. Gets really mad, yells at her, and maybe even fires her, makes a big scene in front of everyone, throws an instrument on the ground. You've always heard of these dentists, right? Well, whose fault was it? I mean, for example, so the issue at hand is my assistant didn't set up the operatorial like I wanted to, okay? So the average dentist may do that. So, well, if you have that problem, first of all, you can reframe it. You say, hey, you know what? My assistant is doing this. Okay, so this is the opportunity for me to solve this problem. And then maybe simply as that, oh, you know what? I need to recognize that I never voiced what I wanted to my assistant. I just assumed that she could read my mind. I don't know why guys assume that, because we can't read any woman's mind. I certainly can't read my girlfriend's mind. I tell them I'm very direct. You need to tell me something. So if we have a problem, it's okay. We're human. I complain about things, I might say it to my friend, or I might think about it for a second, but I always tell myself, and I like to give myself a time limit, whatever it is, I might complain about this, but anytime I have an issue, okay, after the complaining, after the stewing about it, I'm going to find the solution to it. That's my opportunity to find the solution, because if I resolve this issue, then I feel better. I'm not going to have to think about it. My staff feels better because they know what I want, and most employees are, employees are good. I mean, for the most part, they want to do their job correctly. They don't want to be yelled at. They don't want to feel like they're not doing a good job. Most people, we're human. So if we can resolve that problem simply by recognizing it, taking action, voicing it, it's a win-win situation for each party. So that's an example. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that you probably people that haven't started a business or that are framing that in as this big giant problem,
Mm-hmm.
they aren't seeing it as a case of, like you said, the opportunity. But what happens in my business whenever I come up with something like that, when there's an issue at hand, I'll think back, okay, how do I solve this problem? And number two, how do I make sure this never becomes a problem again? And I get so excited over the fact that if I get a good solution about like a standard operating procedure or a protocol or some type of training that the person goes through whenever they're hired, so that I don't have to worry about this again, then that is something to me that is a huge leverage of your time to design this system to where, hey, I'm never gonna have to worry about training an assistant how to set the room up again.
Absolutely.
I could be going for 20 years and I will never have to do this again because I've set this up in such a way. And if it doesn't work with somebody, typically that means that at that point it is their problem if they aren't able to follow instructions. And that's a huge indicator of having a bad employee or not.
Absolutely. Like most people, I tell people, like, I go to my office and I really have to do very minimal management at this point. Like, they might not believe me. I think if I have to give you an example, I probably spend per day 5% or less of my time managing any staff member. And the thing is, how does that occur? It's not one magic bullet. Dentists are always like, what's one magic thing I can do? There's nothing one magic. Everything is cumulative and everything is little, and it adds up to be a massive change over time. So, for example, my practice, I've been a dentist for 10 years. My practice is 8 years old, okay? I think it's 8 years old. So every day for the past 8 years, or up to, whatever, it's a plateau effect, meaning that in the beginning we have more changes, eventually it plateaus out. There's really not much things I have to manage now. But anytime we have an issue over these past 8 years or something like that, it may be very small, it may be very tiny, but I correct it every day and each time. So eventually, it all accumulates up where they know exactly what I need or what I want. We've talked about this. We might talk about it a couple of times, if we needed to. But eventually, we're at a point where management is very minimal. I go to work, I sit down in my office, I surf the internet, I see my patient, I talk to people, and then I go home. I don't have to put out fires every day. Certainly at the beginning, I might have to do some more, but over time, it adds up and it decreases. And one of the things I talk about in my course is that, like I was saying, for most dentists, all this feels so out of their comfort zone because there aren't many courses, there aren't many lessons, there aren't many books, at least in dentistry, that will explain to you and help you understand how management works or why it works. And in my course, I've been doing this for a while. It's actually, I talk about 4 reasons why staff management is needed. And it's really simple. For example, we talked about one of the first things was that you just never voiced what your expectations are. Whose fault is that? It's yours. If you, the dentist, has never taken the time or the energy to tell your staff what you want or what you need, whose fault is that? Is it the assistant's fault? She can't read your mind. So that's an example one example. Or for example, another thing is like you were saying, you reach an issue or something like that, and you're very excited about creating the standard operating procedure so you can solve it. Well, another reason is very simple. Perhaps your office has reached a situation where it never has been clarified of what to do. Isn't that obvious? I mean, it seems obvious now that I say it, but let's say you reach a situation that you've never clarified. You as the dentist, you've always thought in your head, well, I should do it this way or that way, but that's you. Once again, it hasn't been clarified, it hasn't been voiced. So, say you reach a situation like that you have a new office and they didn't collect the money up front, and now you are potentially out of the money for a crown, and you can't contact the patient. Well, that sucks for that situation. Let's say you're a new office and you never thought about it, you never clarified it. So in your mind, you're thinking, oh, they should have done this or that, and you're upset with them. But once again, whose fault is it? It's yours. You're the business owner. Yeah, as a business owner, you have to think about all these scenarios, all these events that may occur, and try to, at least at the beginning, educate your staff and inform them and predict these before they occur to minimize issues. So that's just like another example. And it really breaks down, there's two other reasons, but I'm not going to tell all the reasons, but it's really easy. Once you recognize the reasons why staff management is needed, it's really four simple reasons. And then with anything, if you recognize them, I've created a way for you to very systematically talk to your staff and resolve the situation. So once you have these tools, actually management is very easy, but you just got to learn those tools. And if you could, and I've tailored it in such a way that since I understand that dentists, because I'm a dentist, are very systematic, and they understand this, they have more power to do this. And with any skill, just like 10 years, my 10th year of being a dentist, I can do crowns very easily. I don't have to think about it like my first day of doing it. If you ever read the book The Outliers, they say 10,000 hours of doing something, you're an expert at it. You know, management and leadership, same thing. First, at the beginning, I was probably just a mediocre manager. You know, I made errors, you know. I learned from errors. You know, every time I had an error, I was like, you know what? Well, that was terrible. Why did I do this like that? I couldn't do it like this like that. You know, this did not work. This was not effective. So over time, you talk to your staff a lot, or you have conversations. It becomes more comfortable. It becomes more easy for you. And eventually, it's like that. And like I was saying, cumulative, not only do you become better, but if you do it so much, every day you put out these little fires, eventually it plateaus. And now I'm just hanging out at work. It's easy. I love coming to work. People may not believe it, but I love coming to work. I get to use the internet. I get to do work. I do my own destiny. I only do the procedures that I like to do. You know, I mean, and you know, people are always like, you know, people won't pay for this or that. Well, you know, when it comes to dentistry, one of the most important things for any business is understand your vision. You know, your vision can be whatever it is. You know, my vision was a lower volume practice with higher fees where I spend more time with my patients. So I knew very defined what my vision was. You know, most dentists might think my vision is silly and they don't think it works. And so most dentists, they do the easiest thing. It's like anything. I'll just work harder. I'll work faster. I'll be more efficient. How do you do that? Oh, just join every PPO. It doesn't require much knowledge. You can just sign every PPO and you just have to work physically hard. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you define and you want to do. But if you know your vision, then you can hone your skills. I mean, you can hone your decisions. You know, every decision, like I was saying, over 8 years or 10 years, I make towards my goal. Okay, so yeah. So
you mentioned, you know, that there are all these dentists are looking for this magic bullet. I actually had it written down. You're talking about the problems that people have, and I actually had written down, you know, ask about the silver bullet, which you know, that's what I call it. That everybody seems to be selling dentists these days. Some silver bullet. There's if you do this, then you're going to be able to, you know, make so much more money. All of your problems will be solved. Here's 10 people that their problems were solved with, you know, with testimonials and all these other things. What you don't see behind that is the fact that those people had something else probably happening behind the scenes that led them to being successful in addition to what this situation or bullet did for them. And, you know, like you've touched on so far, a lot of practice owners get to the point where they get fed up with problems and issues and they're just looking for solutions, and they're so crunched for time because of the fact that they are typically in, you know, PPO services, that they are jam-packed schedule-wise, that, you know, they have their family, they have their employees, they have their employees' families, they have their patients, and they have all these people, the vendors and all these people that are depending on them, that their time is so enveloped that they don't know how to work on the business rather than work in the business. So I tell a lot of people that whenever it comes to decision making for staff and for patients and for everyone, that, you know, as a father, as a husband, you know, one of the most the way analogy I always use is if, you know, I come home at night and we decide we don't want to eat in, we don't want to cook, then we say, okay, well, let's eat out. And what happens whenever you ask somebody if they want to eat out? What do they say? They typically say, I don't care.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah. And then you say, well, how about, you know, the Mexican restaurant? I don't want Mexican.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it becomes this like super indecisive thing. People in the end, like whenever you're in that situation, all you want is to be led to say, most people are just going to say, just tell me what you want to eat and we'll go eat it.
Yes.
And that's how a lot of employees think too, is if you tell them how to do something, they want to be led. They don't want to have to make an extra decision today.
No.
They want to be told how to do things.
Yeah.
Patients are typically the same way, and so is everyone else involved. And it's really hard to change into that decisiveness. So let's pull back to say someone feels like they may not be a great leader. Someone feels like they're in a situation where they need to pull their staff together. You said you start out with reframing the mindset, which is incredibly important because, like I said, people always try to skip that and just assume that their mindset is okay, because they try and just pay somebody to take care of the problem and hope that money that they're spending will solve the problem. We typically find whenever we work with clients and they've got a consultant, we're tracking their numbers over time, that there will be a short burst, and then there might be some turnover in the office. There may be some, a long weekend where the training was forgotten, or there may not be, they might get a new software that doesn't integrate with whatever it is that they're using. And so over time, it just peters out. So you said the first step is to reframe your mindset. And then I guess part of that was also the vision part of that too, deciding where your vision is. And I'm sure a lot of that, or I guess I should ask that, is a lot of that looking at where you are now versus where you want to go?
Okay, so I'll try to answer all these comments as best as I can. Okay.
Sure.
So the first thing is, I think the biggest limitation in our practice, anything, is ourselves. Okay, like meaning that I at one point in my life had preconceived notions about what was possible for myself and what wasn't. Okay, so that's why I believe in reframing. The first step is just being open. That's the biggest thing, just being open to change. Okay, many people think that I just have to do this a certain way. I have to do that a certain way. Well, there are many styles of dentists that are very successful in different types of practices. And how is that possible? It's because they wanted to probably do it and try it, so they took the risk. And so you have to be open to that change, okay? So vision, for me, is very important, meaning that, I think most people, if you think hard enough, and it's important if you don't, spend time, sit there for a half a day, couple hours, just mulling over what is important in your life. I sure did at one point in my life, because I wanted to know what I truly, listen, we're talking business at this point. We're not talking about personal, but business. I want to know what I wanted my business to ultimately become. I knew my style of practice because I worked in high volume, I worked in full PPO, I worked in low volume fee for service, and I honed through all my employment what I wanted to do. So it's important to have that vision, because if you don't have your vision, well, you're going to make these decisions every day, but you're not sure what decision or what route to eventually steer your ship in, If I didn't know that, let's say, for example, I wanted to be this high-end cosmetic dentist, which I'm not. I'm a very general dentist. I do families and everything. Let's say I wanted to be a high-end cosmetic dentist, but I didn't think about it, and I'm like, I'm going to do some advertising, and my advertising says lowest price will beat any price. You think someone wanting to go to a high-end cosmetic dentist is going to see that and be like, I want to go to you? No, they're going to throw that thing away. So we have to know our vision. That's just one part. In terms of, we talk about marketing forever, but in terms of marketing, you have to understand your client base and what they're looking for and their priorities and their values, so it matches up to everything. But where does it all come from and where does it all start? Your vision, okay? So vision is very important. You mentioned a very interesting comment, meaning that people will hire consultants or offices to help them whip their office in shape, and there's a burst. What happens? There's always a drop. And why is that? That's very interesting, because I always tell people, like, a lot of times I get messages from people all the time. How do you do this? What's the system to talk to you? What's the system for you to follow up on patients? And I'm like, I have this system. It's not as detailed as you think it is. It's just me making people do things. I'm keeping them accountable, okay? So systems are always a set of instructions or a piece of paper with a set of instructions, okay? There are many courses that give very good systems. But what are systems, or what is a consultant that can implement systems, and what happens when they leave, or you get this piece of paper to tell your staff to do something? There's a short burst because you tell them to do something, and people are like, okay, I'll do it, but then they kind of taper off. Why? It's because you're not the leader, okay? You haven't learned the leadership skills to keep things continuing indefinitely. So when someone hires a consultant, I mean, there's some very excellent consultants. I think consultants can bring you up to speed very quickly, help you get very good information, implement systems. But unless you want to fully offload it for the rest of your career and continually hire this consultant and keep about his or him or her on your payroll to manage your management duties, if you don't do that and you just hire a consultant and then you let them go, but you don't learn the leadership skills to continue what they implemented, then your office has that short-term burst, like you say, and then you notice that decline or plateau effect. And that's because the lack of leadership skills from the owner, you, likely the doctor, to continue the effects of what they've implemented. So, I hope that answers your question, but for me, vision is the start of decision for everything. And then once you have that vision, you can help create decisions and implement things. But if you don't have the leadership skills to continue the implementation and keep accountable for what you expect, then everything peters off and tapers off.
So we have the vision, we have the mindset. Now let's talk about actually hiring employees.
Okay.
I'd like to tap your mind and see what you look for when you're hiring someone. Obviously that's got to go in line with the visions you already have set forth, because you're not going to hire, let's be honest, you're not going to hire someone who, what's a delicate way of putting this? You're not going to hire someone who has poor people skills to be in your front office if you're going to be a high-end family practice.
Absolutely.
You also might not hire someone that doesn't have a family experience that deals with families all the time, or maybe has a family, if you're trying to portray that image.
Sure. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. I was clarifying too much.
So I talk about how I personally hire in my Dental Maverick course also. But as a general overview, I believe, for the most part, and I'll clarify this, that personality is the most important thing. Okay? I hire mainly on personality. Now, I believe that everyone has a range in their personality. And sure, okay, if someone's really dull, I can teach them to be less dull. But in a small business, it is not worth my time and energy and cost to take someone from the end of one spectrum of dullness to personable. It's just not worth it. There's so many people looking for employment in the United States that if I just next potential employee. So I hire on personality. Okay, I can teach you technical skills. I mean, obviously, if you're hiring a dentist, they have to have a certain license or something. But if you're talking about your general staff, your front desk, your assistant, I prefer to hire on personality, because I like to train my assistants the way that I want them to work personally. Some assistants are very well trained, but some assistants or hygienists, they're very locked into their thinking. They're like, my dentist used to do this way. I'm like, I don't care what your dentist used to do. You're working with me now. So I want you to do it my way. And so when I hire people, first of all, I hire a personality, but I'm always like, you might have done it a certain way, and that's great, and I'm welcoming your input about how you do certain things. But here, I'm always open to change, meaning that if I find a better way of doing something and we research it and there's reasons why, then sometimes we change slightly how we do things. So going back, that was a side, but going back, yes, I do hire a personality. Because why? What is one of the most important things, and how do people, let me rephrase that, why do potential customers or clients pick certain stores or services that they like to shop at?
Because they like the place, right?
Yeah, it's likability. It's like I do not like going to Walmart. I like going to Target across the street for, my personal reasons. I think Walmart is dingy and it's just dirtier to me. I'd rather pay more to go to a cleaner store across the street at Target. This is my personal opinion. Some people don't have those personal opinions, and this actually goes to like the tiers of dental clients. Like I talk about this too, but I think there's tiers of clients. There's people that value obviously service. There's people that the DMO crowd that just value the lowest fee. So they don't care they have to wait, sit in line, dirty office, old office. No cost is their priority. So if you understand the market of the clients too, then you can better. This all goes with your vision and everything. But anyway, so likability is very important, because people choose where they like to buy things based on how much I like this person or this company or whatever. So where does likability come from? Well, for the most part, in our field, since we have to do communication face-to-face, has to do with personality. You know, if I hire a front desk girl and they come into my office, this new patient comes to my office, and I, first of all, didn't think about how I designed my office. I made this old school style sliding glass door that I would close each time they have to ring a bell to talk to me. Is that very personal? No. If I, let's say, if someone comes to my office, I don't have any of that, but my front desk girl doesn't look up at them and just has them sit down and just hands a paper clipboard without looking up. Is that very personal? Is that setting a good impression? I've seen dental offices, medical offices where they do that. It's terrible. I don't understand why they're doing that. Obviously, the owners don't understand that either. But
it's probably because that's how they thought that it was supposed to be done, right?
Or I don't know, but they're shortchanging themselves because they're probably having people making judgments already. And what's the most important thing? One of the most important things is first impressions. What do we typically remember most? First, the last. The middle is kind of jumbled up. I was like, I can't remember I was there, but I remember the beginning and the end a lot of times. And it's just what naturally we remember. So, in any case, personality is one of the most important things that I hire on. I hire people on how they can talk to me and carry conversation. When I interview people, I actually don't do much of the interviewing at the beginning. I like to have my staff interview and kind of talk to them because they kind of fool the potential employee because they're probably like, okay, I'm just talking to these employees. They're kind of cool. I'll just answer these questions more. When they see me or the doctor, they're always on their best behavior. But when they're talking to other people, they may not be in that mindset already that I'm being interviewed. And so I've taught my staff there are certain questions you can never ask, but you can ask them things like, what do you like to do on the weekends and stuff like that? Or someone says, I like to go party at 2 a.m. and get pissed. I'm like, yeah, we're not hiring you.
That's not on the weekends. That was just last night.
So stuff like that can reveal a lot of information, okay? And my office is smart. They know they have to work. I tell my office, I'm like, if I hire someone, you have to work with them. So you got to be, if I give you these potential people in the interview and you don't vet them out, and I somehow erroneously hire them, you're gonna have to work with these people. So they know that, they understand that. So, they come to understand that they can learn a lot, and they relay that information to me. And then I come in and I do my decision making, and I judge how they talk to me and stuff like that. So that's what I'm more concerned about. I think personality is hard to teach, and in a small business, you don't have the resources to move someone from a lower end of the spectrum towards more personable. It's just not worth it. If I were a huge company, multi-billion-million-dollar company, and I have some engineer or something like that I need to hire because of their brains, and I need to make it more personal, yeah, sure, I might invest that time, but not in a small business like us.
So you wouldn't believe, you actually probably would absolutely believe how many conversations I have with dentists that talk about their staffing issues. And it's, I'm having to play as a dad to 8, women, and or basically as a husband. They come to me with all this drama, and one bad apple can just completely rot the core of every apple there. And it is amazing to me how that just perpetuates throughout the practice. You show me an unhappy office and employees, and I will show you a practice that does bad financially.
Mm-hmm.
They may be doing well. They may be collecting some money, and providing a net, but they're not going to be performing to its peak levels.
No, absolutely not.
We have a lot of people that talk to me. The rule of thumb out there for practices is 25% of employee cost versus your net production. I get asked about that all the time, and I always try and preface it to say that while that number is important, you have to have a really well working office as well, and a team that gets along. And I've found that if you have a team that gets along, you can naturally get underneath that number, because of the fact that you'll be producing so much more efficiently, because everybody's going to be happy and operating at peak levels.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've came across a single practice that has been under that 25% marker and not been of that type of mindset. So I think that the having the team vet them as well is such a brilliant idea, because like you said, employees will know I said girls, so I want to say the reason I said girls is because we all know that the majority of people that work in dental offices are female. They're pretty good at figuring out, what personality types they get along with.
Sure.
I mean, they don't lead the decision. The owner leads that decision, but it's a very, very strong vetting process as well. So I think that's a really, really great way of going about that. I had an interview with David Harris, the prosperity fraud person. And so if anyone's listening and they're going through this part, you might want to listen to that interview as well to hear about the vetting process after the decision to possibly hire comes in. We talk about things like, checking backgrounds and all these other things that are
a test.
Yes.
Test. Their value. It's a very silly test, but I give them this booklet that I wrote that they have to read. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the scarcity principle also. It's like, oh crap, if my boss is making me read this, he really is setting up expectations. And he's going to test me on this. I might lose my job if I don't understand what's going on. So, one of the biggest things that you probably realize right now is a lot of business and a lot of patience, it's all psychology. If you understand how people think a lot, how your employees think, how your patients think, you can increase your profits, you can make your life easier because you learn how to manage them, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's another thing, a point for your course that I expect every listener to go to dentalmaverick.com and check out, because the amount of information out there about this, if you just go and search for business information, even in general business world, it's not super apparent because it's so hard to talk about mindset and mental fatigue and having clarity of where you're going, that you've done a lot of work in actually systematizing that. So we've gotten to the hiring process. Mm-hmm. We've got those people, hopefully integrated into the team with, I'm assuming some type of system once they start and everything like that. Let's talk more about just the pressures in general of being a business owner. I know a lot of dentists that come to me. So a way I tell people about this a lot of the time is I spent 6 years in college, learning about business stuff, getting an undergraduate and a master's degree in business. And then, I got a CPA license and I was doing the CPA thing for like 8 years before I started my own business. So I was working with businesses and businesses and businesses and businesses. And if I knew that the day that I got out of my schooling after the 6 years, not before going through 8 years of being in business, that I had to be an owner and had to have, probably about $1 million in debt, had to, if I kept my house and the practice and school loans, and then had to lead 7 people, I'd feel so much pressure on myself of not knowing what to do. And there would have been all of these employees looking at me who had more experience than I did at that time. If you were able to go back to the day that you started the practice, knowing the things that you know now, would you be able to give any type of information to that person to say, hey, do this, don't do this?
Okay. Well, pressure, at least in my opinion, or stresses, for many things in regards to what you're discussing, comes from the fact that we don't have the information nor the knowledge on how to handle the situation. I feel stressed because especially at the beginning, for example, I feel stressed because I did not know how to manage or lead my staff. That's a major general stress, okay? And for it comes from information. Like you're saying, if you research business management, oh my Lord, there's so much things that just come up. Good continuing education, be it clinical, non-clinical, or whatever, it's the distillation of information. Someone somewhere has figured out, if it's a good course, what works and what doesn't. I'm a nerd. I sit there and I read books all day. People make fun of me. I listen to audiobooks. I love Audible. I can listen at 3 times the speed, and I can learn so much. And people that make fun of me, they can make fun of me, but they don't see the value in learning from the successes of other people. So I've read tons of books, and I've read so many non-dental books because a lot of dental books are just very, very specific. Do this, system, do that, because it's written by a dentist for the most part. Mm-hmm. So I've distilled many sources of information, especially from non-business, that you can adapt to dentistry. So going back to stresses are when you open a business, the clinical part is not the hard part. You've been trained for that. You've done it for so long, okay? your mind, you're approaching 10,000 hours or whatever of many procedures that you do, so you're going to get very good at it. But when it comes to running a business, this is the first step. You got all these employees, like you're saying. Like you were saying, I'm going to pause for a second until I continue there, but you're saying before you open your own business, you spent a year researching, right? And everything. I did too. Before I opened my own business, I literally spent every day 3 to 4 hours reading every forum 10 pages deep on Dentaltown, even if it didn't apply to me. I went at stages, but I really read 10 pages deep, almost every single thread. I mean, by the time I was finished, I read thousands of hours. I learned from people that were successful and unsuccessful. So that helped me create the mindset to learn how to run a business and everything. I just gathering information left and right. So many people do that, but many people, you know, if you were asking me how would I tell a new person to do this, if you want to be successful, it just takes time, which, you know, you can spend time on your own to learn all this information by reading a lot of things, but it's just education, okay? You have to, you know, if I were to go back in time, I would have spent a lot of time learning more about how to manage staff prior to the day that I open, okay? Many people start learning it at the day that they open, or not more likely, they wing it for a long time, and then they realize, oh crap, I can't manage my staff. I'm losing employees. People aren't working together. And you're right. If people work together in my course, I actually have, you know, I teach you how to, we call calibration, and we have these sheets called code diagnosis where I know exactly everything my staff has talked to the patient about. So we're all on the same page. I calibrate all my staff so they all understand the same thing. I've even created this upcoming section, which is a 25 video section, where I'm going to train the staff on all the principles of Dental Maverick, and I'm also going to teach them how to self-manage and understand each other and how to talk to each other without feeling like they're bossing each other around to minimize the doctor need of staff management. If you can get that and the team on board, it's going to explode. I mean, I got people one doc going from 33,000 to 77,000, one doc from 45,000 to 120,000 a month, and they're just 6 months or less of using this course already. So, you know, most people wait too long to start learning the staff management portion of the leadership. So if I were to go back in time, now this is self-serving, and you know, but if there were a course like my course, I would have taken that course earlier, probably half a year earlier or depending on the length of the course, whatever the course is, I would take it earlier to prior opening my office so I start understanding these principles. Because, you know, there's the term called opportunity cost or, you know, lost opportunity, whatever. You know, if let's say you're opening your office and you're in a non-saturated area, you're establishing your roots, you got the opportunity to crush it, okay? Just like I did. You know, I crushed it, but I could have crushed it more, but I didn't because I was still learning how to manage my staff. You know, we are all on the same page. I lost patients. I had people, you know, leave. But there's so much, because I was new there's so many people coming in, but I didn't retain as many patients as I wanted to, probably because I wasn't a good leader. My team wasn't on the same page yet. So I had that lost opportunity cost. You know, good CE or any course, yeah, there's a cost to it. If it's good, there's a legitimate reason why they're charging it, because they know that you can benefit from it. And so if I had learned that ahead of time, well, then I would probably be even more successful than where I am now. And so that's my advice. You know, I know it sucks. You know, you have to invest a lot of time and energy into learning things about a business, every aspect. It's like a baby. If you want to be successful, and if you don't want to pay for this information, that's fine. You just have to spend physical time and hours researching and finding it. Or if you want to learn things better, be clinical or non-clinical, you find good CE courses that distill all that information to you, tell you the highlights so you don't have to make these mistakes. So that's what I would do. That was a long-winded answer, but that's what I would do.
No, that's a very, very good answer, because I am definitely in the boat with what you're saying. A lot of people like to make the stigma that dentists aren't good business people because they don't have this type of training. You know, that I'm not the one making that stereotype. I don't agree with it. I feel like that dentists in general are some of the most intelligent people that I know, and they have the capacity to be able to do these things quickly. It's just there's not any information out there. So, like, pulling back with your example, if you were to be starting today and you done all this research about, you know, the clinical side of things, and, you know, an AR issue came up, a billing issue came up with an insurance, came back, they denied you, and you didn't know what to do with it, what would you do right now? You'd probably Google it, or you'd call a helpline, and it'd be taken care of, and you'd get over it.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have the business training that we're talking about here, or the mindset training, you might not be able to think about the fact that, okay, I should have a protocol for whenever this happens. I should have a way that my staff handles this so I don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I should have all these other things. And that mindset, what happens is a lot of business owners get sucked into the lowest common denominator of what was just easiest at the time to not have to deal with it at that point in time.
Yeah.
And the training you're talking about can really leverage that to not have to happen anymore. So it's a very, very good use of time to invest in yourself, invest in your practice, and you'll see really, really high dividends. And I've seen the kind of changes that can happen within practices whenever the dentist takes it on, the owner on in themselves, takes it upon themselves to become a better business owner. And just because you think you're a good business owner doesn't always mean the fact that you are a good owner. You could be a fantastic owner, but I can guarantee you there's always going to be a way for you to be able to improve. And if you don't think there's a way for you to improve, that's one of the ways that you can improve.
You know what? I strive every day to learn and improve myself, even if it's a little thing. You know, I learn a new fact. I think about somehow to do something differently. It could be personal, whatever. But I think we should change and grow. Try to grow every day, even if it's very minute. You know, I don't want to be static. You know, static leads to stagnation. You're right. If someone has an issue, a lot of us just want to do the easiest thing, just put it aside because we don't have to deal with it. I don't want to deal with anything. That's what Dennis said. I don't want to deal with anything. Well, you know what? If you don't deal with it, well, actually, you're not going to deal with it, but the issue is going to recur each time, and it's going to add up. And the amount of potential energy or hassle that you keep thinking about not dealing it over your lifetime is exponentially high. If you take the energy and effort at the beginning, and yes, you're going to have to deal with some energy and put some mental thought and some hassle or whatever dislike that you have into deal with this and get over it. But if you deal with it, once you deal with it, the amount of dealing with it that you need for the rest of your life is very minimal compared to the other scenario of not dealing with it. And I don't understand this. You can read Dental Town all day. The same questions, same people always come up. Always come up. Some people say things year after year. I'm like, good Lord, why don't you just learn how to do this? And then the answer is always like, well, you know, sometimes we just need an outlet to release some steam. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm thinking to myself, some of these people have been saying this for years. Learn how to do it. And some people just don't want to. And unfortunately, if you don't want to, there's no one else that can make you. It's like someone that wants to quit smoking. You don't want to quit smoking, you're not going to quit smoking. But it's you that got to take the first step to say, hey, I want to change. I want to be awesome. I want to be badass at this. It's out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to sign up for Tuan's Dental Maverick because it's easier to how to systemize it so it's not out of my comfort zone, for example. But anyway.
Absolutely. So fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on today. If anybody has any follow-up questions or anything like that, what's the best way for them to be able to reach out to you?
You know, just send me an email. My name is tuan@dentalmaverick.com. And I would encourage you or them or whomever, go on my website. The first video of my course is online there to talk about reframing. Even if you just reframe your mind, that's all you take out of it, and you implement it. And you don't take any of my courses, you're probably going to be so much more successful because for the rest of your life, you're going to think about things differently. And if you're a student, well, even if you're a dentist, you can watch. I put these student sections up there. There might be some principles that you can apply for your office too, but it's mainly geared for students, at least a couple of videos. But yeah, but watch the first video. Send me an email if you need to. Email if you need to. But the first video is about reframing, and if you reframe your mind, and that's all you learn out of listening to this video or podcast, then I think that you will be much more successful than who you are before you listen to this.
I absolutely am going to go ahead and sign off on your course to tell anyone out there, go do this right now. There is no reason to not get the free video, no reason not to watch and learn about reframing your mind. It's unique in the industry. I don't know of anyone else that's doing that. And I'm going to leave us with a quote about that, and it says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's by Wayne Dyer. So everyone, thanks for joining us again, Dr. Tuan. We will see you again.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. It's been cool.
Absolutely. Bye. A special thanks to Dr. Tuan fam for making time for us today. As you heard, Dr. Tuan and I covered mindset at a very high level. which is extremely effective but can be really hard to implement. Because of that, and because Dr. Tuan wanted to go above and beyond, he recorded a special 11-minute video walkthrough where he goes step by step of how to increase your treatment plan acceptance for tough procedures using perio as an example. Just so you know, I believe that treatment plan acceptance is one of the top 5 areas where dental practice owners can drastically increase their profitability and their revenue. So having Dr. Tuan walk through how to increase your treatment plan acceptance can be literally one of the top 5 things you can do. To go check that video out right now. If you want free access to that video, along with other free resources available from the show, text PRACTICE to 33444. Again, that's PRACTICE to 33444, or visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. You'll hear from Dr. Tuan and I following that video. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.